Introduction to Infinite Borders in Machine Warfare. Machine Warfare Returns, Boundless Borders. Chapter 1. Head Collision with Gundam's Large Foot Board. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. At the beginning of the new book, this account is a clone with guaranteed quality. The familiar world has a brand new storyline, so quickly collect and recommend it to avoid missing it. The goal was completely eliminated, and it took 17 minutes and 8 seconds for each item. You have completed all the assessment items, totaling 3 hours and 8 minutes. Congratulations, Private Xiao Yun. You have passed the pilot assessment. Please upload your assessment results as soon as possible to update your information listening to the prompts given by the intelligent AI in his ear. Xiao Yun, who had been sweating profusely for 3 hours, finally breathed a sigh of relief and was able to completely relax. He couldn't help but smile at the corner of his mouth. The scene in front of us changes, the chaotic battlefield shatters and disappears, replaced by a closed and bright dynamic holographic training space. As the scene changed, a hot woman wearing a vest and pants also appeared in Xiao Yun's eyes. The other person held hands to accentuate her bulging chest, and nodded to Xiao Yun with a satisfied expression. Well done, you haven't wasted these years of effort. Wearing a complete set of combat uniforms, Xiao Yun jumped off the simulated driving platform, took off his helmet, and rushed over happily hugging the opponent's body. Nina, it's over, finally it's over. Xiao Yun worked tirelessly for 3 years of training day and night, transforming from an ordinary person to an elite soldier proficient in various combat operations. Now, through the pilot assessment, his 3 years of hard work have finally paid off. He has also successfully become a giant god pilot through rigorous and difficult assessments. The giant god is a collective term for mechs in this world. It is a humanoid combat mech that appeared about a decade ago and was named the Giant God. It has been passed down since then, with heights ranging from 7 to 12 meters and different appearances. Each model has great destructive power and defensive capabilities. Not to mention that mechs are inherently romantic for men. Owning a giant god mech alone is a symbol of strength and security, especially in this chaotic era of cosmic exploration. People who can become pilots with corresponding equipment are all top-notch super military kings, but military kings may not necessarily become pilots. It can be said that pilots themselves are synonymous with strength, and they are all legends. Only by mastering various combat skills can they unleash the full performance of mechs while driving giant gods. It is difficult or easy to become a pilot, as you only need to pass the training space assessment under the witness of a giant god pilot. However, to become a giant god pilot, connecting with the spirit of giant god mechs is a threshold that countless people cannot avoid in their lifetime. Giant gods are not so much mechs as external extensions of pilots. Xiao Yun was so happy that he did something he had never done before. He hugged this hot and sexy beauty directly, and Nina, who was being held in her arms, angrily pushed Xiao Yun away and said with a smile, "Get out of here. Don't think I don't know you're taking advantage of me." Xiao Yun quickly shook his head and said, "No, absolutely not. I only have respect and gratitude toward Sister Nina, and absolutely have no other thoughts." Looking at the sexy and hot woman in front of him, Xiao Yun's eyes now only showed gratitude and respect. Even though the other person was a beautiful woman known for her hot figure, Xiao Yun never forgot Nina's guidance and care over the past 3 years. More than 3 years ago, Nina saved a 15-year-old child who was severely injured and affected by the war. Although the child was ultimately unable to be saved, a soul from another world entered the child's body and survived in this world. The first person Xiao Yun saw when he opened his eyes was Nina, who had been taking good care of him and recovering from his injuries. Over the past 3 years, Nina would take Xiao Yun with her wherever she went, and she taught him hand in hand how to become a qualified pilot. For Xiao Yun, although Nina is not a true family member, she is a more important presence in this world than her family members. Nina patted Xiao Yun's shoulder and took out something similar to an soda bottle from her waist bag, placing it in Xiao Yun's hand. "A gift for you. This is. Xiao Yun looked at Nina in shock after seeing what was in his hand. Nina, this is not left by your father. Nina interrupted Xiao Yun's words and said freely, what's the matter? Left and right are just an AI core, and it can only play a greater role in your hands. Most of the newly configured Giant God Auxiliary AI are also brand new, or they inherit the AI of other dead pilots. It's unclear how long those AI will need to be adapted to reach a high level of frequency with your operating habits and spirit. You are also aware that everyone's brainwaves are different, and it takes a long time to adjust and adapt to the same frequency link with the Giant God to achieve the best effect. This guy has been training with you for so long and has already adjusted to the most suitable frequency for you. Now you are the most suitable person for it, you don't need anyone to use it. Xiao Yun looked at the AI core made of unknown materials in his hand and knew that this AI had a different meaning for Nina. It was originally an auxiliary AI of Nina's father's giant god, but after the man died in battle, Nina regarded it as the last memory left by her father. Xiao Yun hesitated for a moment. Just as he was about to speak, he heard a sharp alarm sound from the outpost base, and the white light in the training room suddenly turned red. Attention all units, attention all units. A TMC fleet, 1 Leviathan-class Titan carrier ship, and 3 Hurricane-class landing ships have been found on orbit. The Storm-class assault fleet has been reorganized. Non-combat related personnel are requested to take shelter and evacuate immediately. Combat personnel are requested to prepare for battle quickly and repeat the mission. Non-combat related personnel are requested to take shelter and evacuate immediately. Combat personnel are requested to prepare for battle quickly. The sudden alarm made Xiao Yun and Nina both change their faces at the same time. Nina's face instantly darkened and she said incredulously, how could that be? This is the rear. And it's still at this time, how could TMC's fleet appear here? Xiao Yun's reaction was not slow. He grabbed Nina's hand and said, Nina, it's not time to think about these things. Hurry up and prepare. No. Nina shook her head and broke free from Xiao Yun's hand, pushing him towards the outside. You go take shelter and evacuate with the others. Xiao Yun was shocked and said, why? I can stay and fight with you. Nina said sternly, don't make the battle so easy. Evacuate quickly, don't forget that your assessment materials have not been sent out yet, so you are not a combat personnel yet. Non-combat personnel must obey orders and take refuge quickly. Once you leave the battlefield, you must find a way to contact the fleet and headquarters. The only chance to save this base is for you to successfully withdraw from the battlefield and spread the news. Do you understand? Hurry up and leave. As she spoke, Nina pushed Xiao Yun hard and ran in the other direction without looking back. Xiao Yun glanced at Nina's brisk departure and frowned as if he understood something. He decisively ran towards the evacuation point. On the way to the evacuation point, Xiao Yun occasionally heard the sound of breaking through the air. He was well aware that this was the sound produced by the landing module breaking through the space during orbital deployment, and it seemed to be quite close to the base, which made him involuntarily accelerate his running speed. Suddenly, a loud roar accompanied by a blazing impact hit Xiao Yun head-on, and the entire base began to tremble due to the sudden explosion. The sound of something completely collapsing also kept reaching Xiao Yun's ears. With the appearance of the explosion, Xiao Yun's pupils suddenly shrank and his footsteps stopped. The explosion came from the end of the passage, which happened to be the location of the refuge elevator. As long as he took the elevator, he could quickly evacuate to the underground track train. However, he did not expect the location of the refuge elevator to explode at this time. Negue. Xiao Yun's first reaction was that there was a TMC insider in the base, and his expression became even heavier. A bad feeling suddenly emerged, but the reality did not allow him to have more ideas. The explosion point was located in a sealed underground space, and the generated fire dragon had nowhere to vent. It swept along the channel where Xiao Yun was located, causing him to quickly turn around and flee. But how could human speed be compared to the sweeping flames? As the fire dragon, which was capable of melting everything, approached, it was about to completely devour Xiao Yun. Xiao Yun could already smell the smell of his hair being burnt, and his back was scorching hot. He could clearly feel that death was right behind him, and even more clearly, he could sense the arrival of death. Zhaoshuyuan.com, run it. Xiao Yun roared in his heart but dared not make a single sound, afraid that he would vent the energy in his body. His muscles tightened and he squeezed out all his strength, running even harder. His gaze was focused on the end of the passage, which was also the direction he had just come over. Just as the fire dragon was about to engulf Xiao Yun suddenly felt a flash of blue light in front of him, and then collided with something with a muffled bang. Without any time to react, he hit something directly. The impact caused starlight to appear in his eyes, leaving him feeling dizzy. His chest felt stuffy, and he fell to the ground in front of him. Lying on the ground, Xiao Yun fainted for over a minute before slowly regaining consciousness. Listening to the sound of another explosion above his head, Xiao Yun covered his head and climbed up with a strong urge to escape, reflexively taking his weak steps again. As soon as he took 2 steps, Xiao Yun noticed something was wrong. A huge steel machinery footboard appeared in front of him. Looking up along the footboard, Xiao Yun's face showed a slightly strange expression. After turning around to look at the surrounding environment, he immediately became numb. The passage is gone, and the looting dragon is also gone. Although there is still an explosion above his head, this is not any familiar place in the outpost base. He inexplicably appears in a completely different environment. He also saw a huge robot, no, it should be said to be 3 huge mechas, a Gundam in red, blue, and gold, and 2 unfinished heterodox parts. In an instant, a thought came to Xiao Yun's mind. Damn it, I just bumped my head into Gao Da's big footboard. Chapter 2. A boss without a body is not as good as a miscellaneous soldier. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Collection recommendation. Xiao Yun rubbed his eyes and looked over again. In the clean and tidy huge workshop, 3 complete heterogeneous Gundam machines were bound on the maintenance rack, and 2 others were suspended on the maintenance rack. Various internal circuits were also exposed to the heterogeneous Gundam machines in the condition of separate parts. Some of the black lights were on fire, and the surrounding situation could only be clearly seen through emergency lights. There are still many assembled or in the assembly stage spare parts and weapons and equipment everywhere, and there are bursts of explosions above the head. Listening to these movements, it feels very intense, and the constant roar can feel the vibration coming from the feet. As soon as he saw these 3 Gundam, Xiao Yun knew he had traveled again, but the journey was over. He had already experienced it once, but to his surprise, he had traveled to the world of Gundam Seed this time. At this moment, a sound of footsteps suddenly appeared behind him. Xiao Yun quickly turned around and looked in the direction of the sound. A young man with long hair and a purple robe walked out of the shadows with a rebellious face. At the same time as seeing this man, Xiao Yun also had many memories of the past in his mind, and he immediately recognized the other person's identity. The villain who appeared in the spin-off of Gundam Seed, the first pilot of the heretic Gundam Golden Machine, Lungina Sahak, was also one of the project leaders for these nearby heretic Gundam machines. Gina stopped about 3 meters away from Xiao Yun and stood at the feet of the Golden Heretic Gundam, looking at Xiao Yun. Unexpectedly, there were mice running in. They didn't look like people from Zaft or the Earth Army, mercenaries, or garbage from the Waste Trading Association. Xiao Yun didn't answer, he just stared at Gina Zhang. The wide robe covered too much, making it impossible for Xiao Yun to determine if the other person had a weapon in their hand. Gina sneered and said, "Don't want to answer. It's okay. Actually, I don't have much interest in listening to the words of a dying person. Who made you see something you shouldn't have seen? Your life ends here." Gina instantly raised her hand and extended her right hand from under her robe, holding a handgun that had already been loaded. The muzzle was aimed at Xiao Yun, and as she lifted her hand, she had already pulled the trigger. But Gina's speed was faster, and Xiao Yun's speed was even faster. As soon as Gina made a move, he forcefully threw the thing he had been holding in his hand towards Gina. At the same time, his body rolled and bounced flexibly towards the side, pulling out the dagger he carried in his combat suit and rushing towards Gina again. With a loud bang, the bullet hit the place where Xiao Yun was originally standing, but something that was also thrown by Xiao Yun accurately hit Gina's forehead, causing him to stumble. His left hand covered the hit area, and his right hand hurriedly wanted to turn the gun head to continue shooting at Xiao Yun. In front of a legendary individual soldier, Kusanmi could almost skip a distance in the blink of an eye. As soon as he turned the gun head, Gina felt as if his right hand was tightly bound by an iron hoop and could not move. It was only then that he was shocked to find that a face full of indifference had appeared in front of him. As soon as Gina saw this young and handsome face with deep eyes, she felt a chill in her neck and instantly lost her strength. She widened her eyes in disbelief and knelt down to the ground, hearing the last 2 words of her life. Goodbye. Xiao Yun took the gun from Gina's hand and released the opponent, allowing the lifeless guy to fall to the ground. However, with this movement, Xiao Yun suddenly felt dizzy, and nauseous. He pouted and retched a few times. The impact just now on the big foot of Gundam was really fierce. I lost consciousness for over a minute at that time, and maybe it's already a concussion now. Unable to bear the pain, Xiao Yun picked up the thing that had just hit Gina's head and carefully confirmed that there were no scratches before putting it away with peace of mind. The thing that was thrown out as a weapon and then picked up was the gift Nina had given him before, the auxiliary intelligent AI of the giant god mech. I don't know what material this thing is made of, anyway, the shell is very sturdy, even if hit by a bullet, it won't leave any marks. Otherwise, Xiao Yun wouldn't have thrown things away so casually, but if he faced the same situation again and didn't have something handy at hand, in reality, Xiao Yun would still throw it again. The AI was stuck in a convenient position around Xiao Yun's waist, and any hand that was good could be quickly touched and thrown out. After solving Gina, Xiao Yun also slowed down for another 2 minutes, feeling increasingly dizzy. However, the explosion above his head seemed to become more intense, and Xiao Yun roughly guessed his current situation. If that's right, there is currently a Gundam battle going on in the workshop where he is located, which is the story of the first episode of Gundam Seed. He is currently on a colonial satellite called Heliopolis, and it's unclear to what extent it has progressed and whether Kira has taken a seat to attack Gundam. But although he knew the current situation, Xiao Yun was at a loss about what to do later. He came to this world too suddenly and did not have any preparation at all, and still appeared in such a place. It was normal not to know where to go, not to mention that now the action is also a problem even if he is dizzy. Xiao Yun knew that according to the plot, the colonial satellite would completely disintegrate, and the storyline of Gundam Seed would officially begin. If it were a different situation or a little earlier, Xiao Yun might also be interested in going through the plot again and trying to sneak into the Archangel account on Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, but now Xiao Yun, who is not as high as expected, is really powerless. Moreover, there were 3 complete Gundam in front of me, and I didn't have the heart to see what it looked like to launch a surprise attack on Gundam. Xiao Yun felt that his mind was getting increasingly dizzy, and he felt even more uncomfortable with just a slight movement. However, the thought that the entire satellite would soon fall apart, and it might be the next second. He also persevered and climbed onto the maintenance rack, diving into the nearby Golden Heretic cockpit. As soon as he sat down in the cockpit, it gave Xiao Yun and Zhu Shen a completely different feeling. The 2 joysticks were the most obvious difference. Zhu Shen's operation method was the synchronization of brain waves with a certain degree of manual control, supplemented by AI. The joysticks can be said to be non-existent, replaced by 2 spherical controllers. I originally wanted to find an interface to link my giant AI to the body, but found out that the interface was there but it didn't match. In the end, I had to lock the cockpit cover, buckle the seatbelt, and slowly close my eyes by leaning against the chair. For the future situation, he can only gamble that the man with the strongest dog poop luck in the spin-off of Seed will definitely appear here according to the development of the plot. After all, forcibly leaving with the current dizziness is just a way to seek death. Before falling asleep, the last image that came to Xiao Yun's mind was the big foot of the red machine, as if it had turned into a terrifying demon and then stepped on his head with its big foot. If you like unlimited borders in machine warfare, please bookmark it. The update speed of unlimited borders in machine warfare is the fastest on the entire network. Chapter 3. Waste Merchant Luo Qiu Air. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Collect, recommend, and avoid being unable to find it. I don't know how long it has been, but Xiao Yun slowly opened his eyes. As soon as I opened my eyes and regained consciousness, my entire brain felt like it was being pounded, and I couldn't help but moan softly in pain. The sound of something being knocked over made Xiao Yunxiang endure a headache and turn his head to look in the direction of the sound. Suddenly, he saw the man he had been longing for before he fainted. Luo Qiu. This man can be said to be the strongest mechanical expert in the world of Gundam Seed, an absolute mechanical genius. He can easily identify any mechanical problem at a glance and has extremely high hands-on ability. As an ordinary person, he also has extremely developed nerves and outstanding talent in driving Gundam. But the most amazing thing about this guy is his incredible dog luck. He can be said to be the man with the strongest luck among all Gundam works. His personality is also simple and pure, with a trustworthy childlike heart. You finally woke up. The sound just now was the sound made by Luo quickly standing up from his chair when he heard Xiao Yun move. Luo leaned his head in front of Xiao Yun and said, "You've been unconscious for a long time. How do you feel now?" "Headache." Xiao Yun expressed his only feeling now, but it was much better than his previous spinning state. Looking at Luo, Xiao Yun asked, "Did you save me?" "That's right." Luo nodded and said, "I found you in the Golden Mississippi cockpit, and then I brought you back to me." "Thank you for saving me." Xiao Yun gently covered his head and said, "I bumped into my head before, which affected my movement. I had no choice but to stay in that cockpit and rest for a while." "Do you know how long I have been unconscious now?" Luo shook his head and said, "I don't know, but you've been lying here for about 4 hours now. Are you also a waste merchant? When did you come here?" "It's been almost 12 hours since Heliopolis disintegrated." "Did the satellite disintegrate when you fainted?" "But your movements are really fast. You even arrived here before us and found a good treasure." Xiao Yun noticed that the meaning of Luo's words seemed to be that he was also recognized as a member of the Waste Trade Association. The Waste Trade Association is a loose and neutral organization in this world, and they can enter any place or even the battlefield to recycle various things. They also bear the responsibility of maintaining and repairing various basic public facilities, accepting commissions from all parties to complete different tasks, and have an obligation to save anyone who sends them a distress signal. It is normal for a waste merchant to appear at the MS manufacturing factory in Heliopolis, which seems to perfectly solve the problem of why Xiao Yun appeared there, while also providing a layer of cover for his identity and background. According to the time mentioned by Luo, Xiao Yun also knew that he had fallen asleep for at least 12 hours, and after resting for so long, his physical condition was indeed much better than at that time. Xiao Yun also took the opportunity to say, "I happened to be in Heliopolis. After the battle, I accidentally entered that factory, and I didn't expect to fall asleep for so long." Luo chuckled and said, "It's like this. Fortunately, you're okay. I was shocked to find you inside and thought you were dead." Xiao Yun thanked again, "If it weren't for you, I might not have been far from death." "Thank you very much." At this moment, a mature woman wearing a white coat with wine-red curly hair also arrived in the room, holding a cigarette between her fingers. Her clothes were disheveled and her hair was messy, but this did not conceal the woman's natural mature charm. Luo looked at the previous person with a helpless expression and said, "Professor, you're drinking again." Just a little casually. The mature and sexy female professor waved her hand casually, and her eyes swept over Xiao Yun before nodding gently. "Wake up, little brother, you have good physical fitness. Are you a mercenary? Or did you arrive at the garbage dealer first? It's really strange to find you unconscious in MS's cockpit." Xiao Yun slowly forced himself to sit up and said, "I'm not a mercenary, I'm a newcomer to the trash business." "Well, starting from now on." The professor nodded noncommittally and said, "Newcomer, Luo, you go out first. I have something to talk to him alone." "Okay, then I'll go out first." Luo nodded and turned away, while the professor sat down on Luo's chair just now and crossed his legs with his arms in his arms. "You're not a waste merchant, are you? Your mode of action is more like a mercenary compared to a waste merchant. Did you kill that person?" The body was naturally Gina's body, and of course Xiao Ran knew what the professor was saying. But there's really nothing to hide about it. After glancing at the professor, Xiao Yun nodded lightly and said, "That's right, I killed him, but I want to explain that I just killed him back." The professor nodded slightly and spoke casually, "I don't care about this, nor do I care about the reason why you were there. These are actually not related to us. I just need to make sure you don't pose a threat to the people on this ship, but do you know who the person you killed is?" Xiao Yun chuckled his head lightly and said, "I have some knowledge about the successor of the Ob Sahak family, Lun Gina Sahak." The professor said, "Since you know, then I don't need to waste any more time talking. The person you killed is the heir of the 5 major families of OB. You should understand the consequences of this matter once it is leaked. You may face the hostility and pursuit of the entire OB, but now there is an opportunity to cancel this matter." Xiao Yun gave the other person a deep glance and said, "What do you want me to do?" The professor said, "Send the Golden Mississippi to OB's homeland, and we will write off all the treatment costs and the fact that you killed that person. Of course, you can also get a considerable amount of employment fees and the machine itself as compensation from OB, but you only have 3 days." At this point, the professor's expression changed slightly, and his eyes lit up as he said, "We can also provide you with some help, such as sending you near Earth's orbit, but you need to give me half of your employment fee as compensation for this transportation. My sixth sense tells me that you are very short of money. Do you want to consider accepting this commission, and it can also solve your biggest problem now?" Xiao Yun glanced at the professor and felt a bit strange about how the professor would let him do this. They could have done it themselves, unless there was a reason why they couldn't do it themselves, so they entrusted the task to him. But the trading chips proposed by the other party really caught his heart. After all, it's hard to say what the consequences would be if the people who were really going to be Orb knew that Gina was killed by him, but it would definitely bring some trouble. Xiao Yun knew that Gina's twin sister, Mina, was a difficult person to match. Secondly, if he can get some money and still go to OB to stay there, he doesn't have to worry too much about how to live for a while in the future. As for the situation where OB is destroyed due to the inertia of the plot, he can leave early and change to another place. However, in this world where the future is uncertain, it is still wise to take root first. Xiao Yun raised his eyebrows and asked, "Are you sure you want to cancel the transaction?" The professor smiled slightly and said, "I am the only one who knows about Gina's death here, and I have the surveillance data. Although Luo and the others who took care of you just now know that someone died there, they do not know their identity. Moreover, Luo is very clever. Through some traces, they can conclude that it was the person who shot you first and then you counterattacked. I believe in his judgment and intuition, and for now, I think you are a person who poses no threat. I will also make them keep their mouths shut about this matter in the future. I think you should be able to trust us in this matter." Xiao Yun smiled and nodded, saying, "I agree. This is probably the best choice. Even if it's to repay your kindness in saving me, please go to Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Could you please take me to the nearest place?" I will also find a way to send that machine to Abu. The professor stood up with a slight smile and said, you should rest well in this room for the next few days. I will also inform you of the specific arrangements for you to go to the Ob region when you are ready. After the professor left, Xiaoyun also shook his head gently and lay down again. The current situation is complex in various senses, and the problem in front of him needs to be solved. Nina's situation in another world also worries him a lot. He has no idea whether he can go back or not about traveling. A person lay in bed, lost in thought for a while, and then the door was opened again. With a headscarf and yellow vest on, Luo Qiu walked in carrying a plate full of food. After Luo came in, he placed the plate on the table in the room and said, I'm hungry. If I'm injured, I need to eat more to recover quickly. Xiaoyun looked at Luo and asked curiously, just now, the professor said you also saw the body. So don't worry, I'm really a bad person. He saved me and brought me back to your boat. Luo Xuanlang smiled and looked very innocent. No, I don't think you're a bad person. My intuition has always been very accurate, and I don't feel any killing intent on you. By the way, I'm Luo Qiu heir, and like you, I'm also a waste merchant. If you need anything in the future, feel free to contact me, and I can give you a discount. Xiaoyun nodded with a smile and said, I am Xiaoyun, a new waste merchant in the industry. You too. If there is anything I can help with in the future, just let me know and I will give you a discount. Luo reached out his hand to Xiaoyun and smiled, saying, that's settled. Xiaoyun reached out and grabbed Luo's hand, saying, it's a deal. Chapter 4. AI Restart. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xiaoyun slowly got off the bed and glanced at the room before asking, Luo, do you know where to put those things on me? It's in the cabinet. Luo pointed to the wardrobe in the room and said, I've put it all away for you, but I've also put away all the weapons and other things. The professor said I'll return them to you when you leave. Xiaoyun walked over to open the cabinet and saw the training clothes that had already been taken off, as well as the auxiliary AI placed separately. Luo also glanced into the cabinet and said, there's nothing missing, isn't there? We found these when we brought you back. No. Xiaoyun took out the AI core and turned to Luo, asking, Luo, I remember many people in the guild said that your mechanical skills are very impressive. Luo lifted his chin towards Xiaoyun and proudly revealed his two big nostrils with a look that you understand very well. That's right, my skills are the most powerful among all the waste merchants. Xiaoyun naturally completely believed his words and handed the things in his hand to Luo, saying, can you help me see if there is a way to make a transfer interface for this thing? Luo took a closer look and said, this interface is a bit special. I have never seen this type of interface before. It's quite simple to make, but I still need to test it to see if it works. Xiaoyun said, if it's not troublesome, could you please help me make an adapter for this thing? No problem, there's nothing I can do while you're here. Luo Kailang smiled generously and asked strangely, but I need to figure out what this thing is all about before I can determine what different pins on the interface might do. Otherwise, if you're not careful, you might burn it inside. Xiaoyun glanced at the core in Luo's hand and said, it's my good friend, an artificial intelligence core. The core integrates a circuit breaker protection device and also has the function of automatically adjusting the output line. You can rest assured and boldly test it, as it's not so easy to break. Artificial intelligence. Luo was a bit surprised and carefully looked at the core. This thing is also an artificial intelligence. It's the first time I've seen such a small artificial intelligence core. Artificial intelligence is definitely not unfamiliar to Luo. In terms of mechanical technology, Luo, who is extremely powerful, also has an equally outrageous artificial intelligence small 8. The small 8 has very powerful capabilities and can assist Luo in designing and manufacturing weapons and bodies. But Xiao 8 definitely does not represent the normal level of artificial intelligence in this world. Xiao 8 has a mysterious background and exceptional abilities, so it is just a unique seedling. Luo said confidently to Xiao Yun, this thing used to be artificial intelligence. In fact, I also have an artificial intelligence. I am very familiar with artificial intelligence. Don't worry, I will help you make the adapter as soon as possible. Are you planning to link it to the golden machine? Xiao Yundao said, yes, that machine is different from what I used to encounter, so I need this guy to help me. Thank you anyway, Luo. It's okay, don't worry, leave it to me. Luo patted his chest and chuckled, saying to Xiao Yun, then I'll go research first. You eat first, and I'll tell you the results when I come back. If it were someone else, Xiao Yun would definitely not be at ease, but he was 100% at ease with Luo. He smiled and nodded before slowly sitting at the table, then I'll wait for your good news. Luo hurriedly left with the AI core in great interest. Before leaving, he didn't even lock the door to Xiao Yun's room. Relying on his strong intuition, he gave the stranger Xiao Yun enough trust. And Xiao Yun did not disappoint Luo's trust. After finishing his meal, he stayed in his room and didn't go anywhere. Less than an hour later, Luo excitedly reappeared in Xiao Yun's room, carrying a yellow box with a screen and a gold box similar to a game. Alright, get up and take a look. The yellow box is Luo's artificial intelligence small 8, but the golden box is a bit confusing for Xiao Yun. What is this? Luo placed the golden box directly in front of Xiao Yun and said, this is the adapter I made for you. However, I realized that it would be inconvenient to just make one adapter, and you wouldn't be able to communicate with it even without other terminal links. So, I made a shell like my little 8 as a carrier for a portable terminal, putting both the terminal and the core inside. Xiao Yun looked at the portable terminal made by Luo and didn't know what to say, but it would be much more convenient with this box. Xiao Yunlian hurriedly said, thank you so much. Luo also placed Xiao 8 on the table and said, it's okay, you take a look first. It seems that your artificial intelligence has binding measures. I just tried calling it whatever it is, but he ignored me. Let me give it a try. Xiao Yun aimed the side of the box with the screen at himself and said, VT, I'm Xiao Yun. Can you hear me? The box suddenly emitted a somewhat stiff but actually smooth male voice. We have detected Xiao Yun through a new external device. Xiao Yun, please confirm your identity. VT, I am Xiao Yun with the identification code 787405526. Voice print comparison completed, code confirmation. Hello Xiao Yun, I have detected that I am in an unknown external device. May I ask if these devices are trustworthy? Xiao Yun nodded and said, you can trust me. Xiao Yun, I also confirmed that there are other people around you. Xiao Yun's face remained unchanged and he said, it's a new friend. VT, understood, please wait a moment. I will be conducting a self-check on all devices, and I may need to remain silent for a period of time. If there is anything I can help with, you can call me anytime. Take your time, don't worry, Xiao Yun said before looking up at Luo standing on the side and sincerely thanking him, thank you, Luo. If it weren't for your help, I wouldn't know how to awaken this guy. It's okay, as long as there's no problem. Luo is glad to be able to help Xiao Yun. Although he is also interested in Xiao Yun's artificial intelligence VT, he did not continue to disturb Xiao Yun and said, then you can rest for a while and I won't disturb you here. Coincidentally, I also want to go and see the red machine, which is the MS that was placed with your golden machine. The blue machine was also taken away by someone else, who stole the treasure you first discovered. You won't blame me, right? Xiao Yun smiled and shook his head at Luo, saying, how could it be? I would be very satisfied if there was only one golden machine left. When Luo left again, Xiao Yun sat down again and said, VT. I'm here, Xiao Yun. How is the self-inspection status? It's very clean and has strong performance, but this terminal is a technology construction that I don't know about. Through internal testing, I found out that this is a quantum computer that I can't understand. Xiao Yun, is this a new product from the Free Alliance? No, Xiao Yun placed his hand on VT and whispered, the outpost base encountered an unknown situation after receiving TMC's attack. We are no longer in our original world. VT spoke clearly but with slight intervals, saying, Xiao Yun, I understand. Alex used to enjoy reading similar novels, so are we traveling through time? Yes, we have traveled through time. Xiao Yun smiled and said, so you must remember not to reveal any information about the original world. VT, I understand that confidentiality is the most basic requirement. Xiao Yun, I am happy for you. After coming to this world, I have already made new friends. Thank you, VT. Xiao Yun shook his head and smiled, pondering, VT, do you have any similar information in your database about the maintenance and repair of formal pilots' combat uniforms and helmets? VT, yes, in order to ensure that the giant god pilots need maintenance and supplies when fighting alone, I have complete supporting information about the giant god in my database. Organize it and export it to me for use. When Xiao Yun fell asleep again, it should be considered the second day, and this time the symptoms became even milder. After contacting the bridge through the communication device in the room, Luo soon appeared in front of Xiao Yun again and said, Xiao Yun, is everything better? Xiao Yun and Luo greeted each other and approached the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com, saying, it's much better now. I estimate the shock is relatively small, so the recovery is very fast. Let's go, I'll take you to eat something first, and then take a look at your golden machine. Luo gestured to Xiao Yun to follow him and said, yesterday the professor told me you wanted to send the golden machine to Abu, and asked me to prepare it for you. I had to work hard for a long time yesterday to get it ready. Thank you very much. After finishing breakfast, Luo took Xiao Yun to the ship's Naku, and when he saw the golden machine, Xiao Yun's neck stiffened and turned to Luo. Luo, may I ask if my understanding of sending is different from what you understand of sending? Luo touched his chin and said solemnly, I think it might be the same because the professor said your operation must be kept confidential, so you cannot enter Earth in a normal way, and there is not enough time to prepare for you to descend. You can only fly a single golden plane into the atmosphere. Single machine intrusion into the atmosphere. If I remember correctly, this organism doesn't have this function, right? Xiao Yun pointed to the golden machine, and the originally brilliant golden color turned into fecal yellow. The entire body was coated with a thick layer of something unknown. No, Luo nodded solemnly and said, so I applied a thick layer of insulation material to the body and wrapped the insulation cloth around it. We will put you on the recovered satellite outer wall debris, which happens to be near the sea near OB. So if everything is normal, you should be able to land in the sea near OB. But once the orbit is adjusted after entering the atmosphere, the timing and method of landing depend on yourself. All we can offer you is more preparation, but rest assured, I will install more thrusters on the debris for you. Chapter 5 Begins descending. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xiao Yun looked at Luo and then showed a sincere smile, saying, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Luo laughed unconsciously and said, it's okay. Anyway, as long as you successfully descend the Earth and enter Obu, we can also get a large commission this time. Don't worry, in order to successfully obtain this commission, I will definitely try my best to help you successfully break through the atmosphere. Xiao Yun couldn't help but roll his eyes and carried the VT to the control console of Naku. He looked left and right and pulled out a wire before connecting it to the VT. Luo, can you help me take a look at this? Curiously, Luo leaned his head over and saw a helmet-like object appearing on the console screen. On the right were various parameters, which were not complete but only related to maintenance and upkeep. However, there are also detailed explanations and disassembly diagrams in the picture, which caught Luo's attention. He stood next to him and touched his chin to study, saying, this thing is a helmet, but it doesn't seem like it's as simple as a helmet. Sensors, receivers, signal amplifiers, what is this? Brain wave patches. Neural conductors. Luo glanced at Xiao Yun and said in confusion, is this thing useful to you? Is there something wrong with your brain? Oh, you do have a problem with your brain now. Can this thing treat concussion? Xiao Yun politely raised a finger and smiled at Luo, saying, my brain is fine, I just have a concussion. Luo laughed and said, ha ha ha, just kidding, is this thing useful to you? It looks like it's some kind of brainwave reading device, and this design is a bit special. Can this thing really work? Useful. Xiao Yun nodded and asked, is there a way to make it? Luo shook his head and said, maybe not. There are some things that are not available on the ship and there are no suitable materials. Some small parts also need to be customized. There are also many chips used in the helmet, and I don't have suitable ones here. Even geniuses like me need to study and customize materials. Xiao Yun asked again, when will it be done the fastest? Luo looked at the image and text on the screen and said, let me take a look. This thing is quite complex and precise. Customizing the corresponding materials and chips, along with the production time, will take at least 1 month, at least 1 month. Xiao Yun patted VT and said, VT, export the blueprint of the combat suit. The console screen has changed, and a new blueprint has appeared. This time, it is a blueprint of a combat suit. After a glance, Luo said that this is something. A portable exoskeleton armor component for humans. It's a bit interesting to form a combat suit style as a whole. It's not just an exoskeleton, but a modular single equipment. This set is the same as the helmet just now, right? Xiao Yun explained to Luo, the helmet is a controller, and this combat suit is individual equipment. It's hard to say if it were someone else, but it definitely wouldn't be a problem for me. Luo confidently smiled and said, I can see that these drawings are not actually actual production drawings. They are very scattered and not complete, and there is no detailed process. They should be maintenance drawings. I need more time to study them. Luo tapped his hand on the screen and looked at Xiao Yun, but is it really okay for you to give me this thing? Besides, the information about this person using an ultra-small energy barrier module is definitely a cross-era technology. With this information, I can even deduce the true production method. The entire set of equipment can be said to be a super equipment that can rewrite the current single-soldier combat. This kind of thing is a big treasure. Xiao Yun pressed Luo's shoulder and said a simple sentence. You saved me, I believe you. Luo was taken aback by Xiao Yun's serious demeanor for a moment, and then became more serious. As soon as he became serious, it seemed that his appearance had jumped up several levels. Luo also nodded seriously and said, I understand. This information will never fall into the hands of a third person again. I need to study the drawings, and the things I make may not be exactly the same as the drawings, but once it is done, I will send it to Obu for you. Thank you, Xiao Yun smiled slightly and said, I will also pay you enough commission fees. Luo gave Xiao Yun a thumbs up and said, no need, I'm also very interested in this equipment. I will also make a set for myself, and the commission fee for making it will be deducted as a patent fee. Xiao Yun nodded and looked at his AI. VT, leave all the relevant information to Luo, and also make a copy of the core control system and brainwave recognition system of the combat suit. Okay Xiao Yun, the information has been copied to the console host and all sensitive words have been removed. Luo quickly scanned the console and then unconsciously glanced towards Xiao Yun, but in the end, he didn't say anything and looked very seriously towards the screen. Xiao Yun didn't disturb Luo's serious appearance. He dismantled the cable connected to VT and crawled into the cockpit of the golden machine in a few seconds. After finding the interface, he withdrew a cable and connected it to VT. VT, this is the mecha of this world. Understood, reading mech data, Xiao Yun. This will take some time, you can go rest first. Let me familiarize myself with this aircraft first. Xiao Yun shook his head and quickly typed the keyboard from the cockpit. Cooperate with me to check the control system of this aircraft. VT-0.0. It's hard to understand why this machine has the ability to fight in space, as well as miniaturized high-energy beam weapons. Xiao Yun, can this technology change the current situation of its own alliance if brought back? Xiao Yundao said, this is the beauty brought by different worlds, but these alone may not be enough. In our world, the combat of the universe will still rely mainly on cannons and giant ships, and the realm of the giant gods is only on the ground. Moreover, we don't know if we can go back. Even if we can go back, these things are not something that can be exposed to others. VT, understood, Xiao Yun. If you want to control this machine like controlling a giant god, the first thing you need to change is the operating lever of the machine. Xiao Yun looked at the information he had retrieved on the main control screen and said, maybe there's not enough time left. I can only familiarize myself with the driving mode of this type of machine as soon as possible. Anyway, the operation mode of agricultural machinery is also 2 operating levers, and I can operate it very well. VT, can you modify the control parameters of this machine to achieve the best fit for me? Sure, Xiao Yun, but I need time. Do we still have time? Yes, there is. Xiao Yun stopped his movement and glanced in the direction of VT, laughing, there is not enough time to modify the body, but there is still time for you to adjust the body. I will complete the analysis and adjustments as soon as possible. Xiao Yun became familiar with this golden heretic and began preparing for the upcoming descent operation. Even with the assistance of VT, he needed to be more familiar with it to fully unleash its performance and ensure that there were no mistakes during the descent process. Next, Xiao Yun continued to stay on the ship home in the recycling house for another 2 days, and also met other people on the ship. For most of the 2 days, Zhou Yu was familiar with the golden operation method, and with the help of VT, he quickly made progress through virtual operation. In terms of personality intelligence, VT is not particularly powerful, at least in terms of performance, it is not as agile as Luo's AI Little 8. Little 8 has a truly independent personality and can exist as a leader, with true emotions. Little 8's ability is also beyond doubt. But VT doesn't work. VT actually doesn't have emotions, unless it can truly awaken its own personality like Little 8. However, VT also has its own characteristics and advantages. As an AI designed specifically for combat assistance, it is indeed better than Little 8 in this aspect. Moreover, with the support of quantum computers in this world, the VT, which originally had only 1 core, has become increasingly powerful. After thoroughly reading all the information of the golden machine, it is easy to use the cockpit as a training cabin and adjust various parameters of the body in real time during Xiao Yun's familiarization training, making the body more suitable for Xiao Yun's operations. After 2 days, Xiao Yun didn't necessarily become completely familiar and very skilled, but he already had a driving foundation in VT assistance, so he had no problem operating the golden machine flexibly. On that day, Xiao Yun put on a thick thermal insulation suit specially prepared for him and entered the cockpit of the golden machine, controlling the body to slowly leave Holmes Naku and enter the universe. The red machine also followed steadily under Luo's operation, and along with the golden machine, they arrived at the top of the home number and began to get busy. The image of Luo popped up on the cockpit screen. Xiao Yun, I will fix you on the outer wall of this satellite and launch you together. In about a minute, you will be completely affected by the gravity of the Earth and start falling towards the ground. You must adjust your entry orbit and angle before reaching the critical point, and make sure to forcefully cut in from the front of the satellite's outer wall. Any slight error in the middle is likely to result in vastly different outcomes. If it falls into the sea, it's okay, but if it falls to the ground, it will only result in the destruction of the aircraft and the death of people. Be careful. Xiao Yun took a deep breath and said, I know, I have rehearsed several times in advance, and I have a high level of confidence. It's not a big problem. Luo reminded, in short, be careful. The descent process is divided into 4 steps. The first step is to eject, the second step is to adjust the angle, and the third step is to reduce weight. The fourth step is to slow down, and not a single step can be wrong. Xiao Yun nodded and said, "I understand." Didi. Another communication screen came in, and the professor with messy hair and a white coat appeared on the screen with a drowsy look on his face. After seeing the professor in the screen, Xiao Yun couldn't help but take a second look. This kind of screen was too stimulating for him at present. Today's professor, apart from a white coat on the outside, was only wearing a burgundy lace-trimmed panties. The rest of the body was completely naked, revealing half of it. The professor took a puff of smoke and said with a drunken expression, "Time is right. I have already contacted the people of OB. You just need to land in the designated area according to the plan, and OB's people will contact you to take you to OB. Sorry. You saw something you shouldn't have seen." Another person crawled into the screen and directly blocked the professor from behind, smiling awkwardly at Xiao Yun. "That's it. Let's lower it according to the plan. There are still 10 minutes until the scheduled time, and I will notify you 1 minute in advance." Xiao Yun shook his head seriously and said, "Could you please come to the tree?" A few minutes passed in a flash, and the mountain-blowing tree on the bridge reminded Xiao Yun on time, and Xiao Yun also gave a prepared reply. As the countdown began, when the number turned to 0, Xiao Yun suddenly felt a huge recoil force pressing him firmly against the chair. The outer wall of the satellite was instantly ejected by the ejection device on home, causing the golden machine, which was kneeling on the ground and firmly grasping the fixed handle, to take off and rush straight towards the earth in front. "Xiao Yun, see you, Abu. Be careful all the way. See you, Rob." Chapter 6. Showcasing True Technology. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Didi. The annoying alarm in the cockpit kept ringing incessantly, and the red lights flickered along with it. The vibration also forced Xiao Yun to firmly grip his hands on the 2 control levers. Entering the critical point, posture adjustment begins, and propulsion control begins. VT began to control the thrusters installed on the outer wall of the satellite without any fluctuations, adjusting the entry attitude, allowing the thick and sturdy outer wall of the satellite to act as a barrier to the friction and high temperature brought by entering the atmosphere. After entering the atmosphere, there will be a black barrier for about 4 minutes, which is also the most dangerous stage for a single aircraft to descend into the atmosphere. The aircraft will also be completely enveloped by the high heat brought by friction. For example, the Golden Plane, which has no single machine to break through the atmosphere, does not have the ability to adjust its attitude in the air at all. Choosing to use the satellite outer wall instead of relying on the landing capsule for landing, it is enough to describe in the simplest 2 words, that is, looking for death. However, with sufficient external preparation, seeking death can be downgraded to adventure. Once entering the atmosphere, a slight angle difference can cause the final landing point to be separated by 108,000 miles, and only the thrusters added to the outer wall of the satellite can be used to continuously adjust the orbit and angle. But if it were to be replaced with an aircraft like the Freedom Gundam that has the ability to advance alone, everything would become relatively simple. And now Xiao Yun is also taking a big risk in the situation he is facing. The feeling of starting to fall uncontrollably makes Xiao Yun's heart ache, and he dares not move, letting VT control all the thrusters to adjust their posture. In terms of subtle control, VT can play a much more important role than the current Xiao Yun. It can be said that the difficulty of the entire descent process also decreases linearly due to the presence of VT. As a pilot, Xiao Yun only needs to stay quietly on the side at this time. If it weren't for VT, Xiao Yun would never have agreed to enter the Earth in such an adventurous way. Quickly, the temperature inside the cockpit began to rise and entered the most difficult stage of the entire process. As long as you can safely cross this 4-minute time and enter the approximate airspace range, even if there are a few accidents in other processes, it will be harmless. Xiao Yun's face was calm, but his inner emotions were not as calm as they appeared on his face. He stared at the real-time feedback information on the screen and didn't even dare to blink his eyes. Even though he knew that Luo had also reinforced the outer wall of the satellite and coated it with heat-resistant coating, no one could guarantee how long the fragment of the outer wall under his feet could last. From the real-time feedback information, it can be seen that the speed of the fragments under his feet has reached a very high level. Even wearing a thermal suit, Xiao Yun can feel the scorching temperature, which reminds him of the explosion and flames he encountered before coming to this world. The vibration frequency of the body is also getting higher and higher, and in addition to the piercing alarm sound, you can also hear the sound of clanging incessantly. The fragments on the outer wall also began to crack, and many parts had already melted or broken off from the edges. When thrown far away, they ignited a blazing flame and then burned completely. Every time he saw a fragment burst open and fly out, Xiao Yun's heart would also sink a bit, which caused him to constantly worry about the main body of the fragment under his feet cracking at any time for the next minute. The thermal insulation coating materials applied and wrapped around the exterior of the golden body also quickly dissipated, and some areas gradually began to reveal the armor of the body, restoring its original color. Then, the surface of the golden armor gradually began to melt. Xiao Yun could clearly see that some positions on the structure diagram of the screen slowly turned red, representing damage, reminding them that these places were already overloaded. Every minute and every second is an absolute torment in this situation, and the golden machine does not even have the phase transfer armor that meets the standard configuration of the G series. Faced with this situation, it becomes even more difficult. All Xiao Yun can do now is wait and trust. Accidents are not so easy to occur, and the technical ability of this trash guy Luo is still trustworthy. Whether it is the thickness of the insulation material applied to the body or the reinforcement of the satellite outer wall fragments, there is sufficient protection, and all damage is limited to the surface of the body. The fragments carried the body at an extremely high speed and broke through the black barrier, making the world in Xiao Yun's eyes seem to become clear, and the worries and shadows covering his head also became clear. Breaking through the black barrier, the first deceleration begins. Several thrusters bounced out of the satellite debris, starting to light up at full power and spewing out scorching flames, causing the rapidly descending debris to rapidly decrease in speed. The nozzles of these thrusters also began to slowly rotate under the subtle adjustments of VT, continuing to adjust their angles and directions so that the golden machine could land in the designated area. A full power deceleration in just 30 seconds depleted all the reserve fuel, but the speed also decreased to a sufficient level. The angle adjustment is completed, weight loss begins, and the fragments detach. With the sound of VT falling, a series of thumping sounds followed. The outer wall of the satellite, which had not yet broken apart, experienced several small explosions. The already dilapidated outer wall of the satellite completely disintegrated, becoming countless fast fragments scattered and blocking the outer wall of the golden plane, ending its mission. The third step of descent was also successfully completed. Although the golden plane itself was completely empty now, and even though it did not have the ability to fly and began to fall freely, Xiao Yun's heart was much easier than before. A mature female voice rang in Xiao Yun's ear. GP01, GP01, please answer. Xiao Yun raised his hand and opened the communication. GP01 received. The same voice seemed to have breathed a sigh of relief, and immediately said seriously, "Great, you're still safe. I'm Erica Simmons from the Dawn Society, your client. I've already seen your location, but something unexpected happened. The coalition seems to have discovered traces of you descending from the universe, and we've dispatched forces to investigate and intercept you. There is no time for you to slow down. You must descend before the Earth Army arrives to intercept you, including the time for your rescue and shelter. Within 5 minutes, we must leave this sea area immediately and leave nothing behind. What didn't happen was a small accident. Although the entire process went smoothly, the final step disrupted the original normal landing steps, forcing Xiao Yun to land quickly on the sea in a more aggressive way. The total time of 5 minutes, including containment, was also a bit outrageous. This is equivalent to directly compressing the process of his normal landing and final deceleration into an extremely short time, which also makes Xiao Yun feel a bit overwhelmed. But now was not the time for Xiao Yun to hesitate. He took a deep breath and said decisively, "Got it, I will speed up the descent. However, due to unexpected situations that still pose a threat, you must add an additional compensation to me." Erica Simmons didn't hesitate either. "No problem, we will give you a satisfactory compensation. Please try to land in our direction to save time, but be careful not to fall on the ship." Received. A bright spot on the screen began to flicker, and Xiao Yun once again held his hand on the joystick. "VT, plan your route." The route has been planned, and now the operation rights have been handed over to manual operation. It's starting. Xiao Yun pulled the control stick and lightly stepped on the pedal. With a simple operation, the golden aircraft, which was originally maintaining a vertical descent, instantly changed its posture and began to dive and land according to the VT's planned route. At the moment when the body's posture was adjusted, the backpack and leg thrusters of the Golden Heretic also lit up, and the flames spewed out with huge propulsion force, accelerating the descent speed of the Golden Heretic, who had just slowed down, like a meteor rushing towards a cargo ship marked as anchored in the sea. "What are you doing?" Erica kept watching every move of the Golden Machine with her binoculars on the ship. She was also startled to see the Golden Machine fall rapidly in this posture. "I asked you to speed up, not to commit suicide. If you crash directly into the sea, the machine will disintegrate." At this moment, Xiao Yun had no time to answer Erica Simmons. His gaze was fixed on the rows of data appearing on the screen, and he searched www.zhaozhuan.com to determine the altitude, wind direction, and a series of related data. The body's posture had not changed at all. The Golden Heretic descending from the sky is getting faster and faster, and in the blink of an eye, it will cross a long distance. Soon, it will only be less than 500 meters above the sea level. It was not until this moment that the thrusters of the body suddenly went out, and the body's posture was instantly adjusted again. The legs were facing downwards, and all the thruster inlets of the body lit up again to forcibly slow down. But this kind of deceleration did not have much effect on the acceleration just now, and it was also of no use. The Golden Machine still watched helplessly as it continued to fall at an extremely fast speed. 100 meters away from the sea, several large parachutes suddenly popped out from behind the Golden aircraft. The moment it popped out, it swelled up and dragged the Golden aircraft to a sudden pause, but it also had a momentary effect. The parachute was torn apart at the interface and burst open. After experiencing this moment of deceleration, the Golden Machine's remaining momentum slightly decreased and continued to fall. The head of the Golden Machine, which had not yet turned, also began to move. Countless bullets were sprayed from the multi-barrel close-range defense weapons on the head, roaring towards the sea, instantly turning the calm sea into a tumultuous and splashing appearance, and also causing countless splashes of water. In the last second before falling into the water, Xiao Yun controlled his body to throw the shield he had been carrying towards the turbulent sea, causing even larger waves to rise on the surface. The Golden Machine was completely engulfed by these waves, creating even greater waves and churning, before disappearing completely into the sea. Erica saw all of this in her eyes, only to cover her slightly parted lips in shock after it was all done. Her face was filled with shock and disbelief. This madman. Rescue team, salvage team, come on. Get him up. Chapter 7. Erica Simmons. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A few minutes later, the Golden Machine had already been lifted from the sea by multiple ropes, emitting continuous white smoke. The shattered parachute had also been quickly retrieved and cleaned up, leaving no time to carefully search for the things that had completely sunk into the water. The golden heretic who was lifted up looked extremely miserable, with the golden soles of his feet already broken and the sole thrusters completely damaged. The legs also looked almost at the level of being scrapped, and there was no intact piece of armor visible from all over the body. Coupled with the marks of melting during descent, it felt like it was just one step away from being scrapped. But the final result was still as expected by Xiao Yun, with a big difference. Xiao Yun was actually less affected in the cockpit than expected, that is, he suffered some minor impacts. Xiao Yun actually has extensive experience in simulating the project of orbital deployment, with at least over 500 times. Orbital deployment is already one of the compulsory subjects for giant pilots, and in this regard, Xiao Yun dares to guarantee that no one in the world understands it better than him. He did not dare to jump off the track while driving the golden plane, but in a different situation, he had already broken through the black barrier and slowed down. He did not have much concern about the situation where the sea was still below. In fact, in the subject of giant god training, this type of track deployment without a landing compartment generally only requires the driver to ensure their own survival, and the damage to the body is completely out of consideration. Without considering the integrity of the body, using the body itself and other conditions to reduce the impact on pilots is also a basic requirement in the training subject. Xiao Yun fully met the requirements and did very well this time. After all, only survival has hope. Equipment damage is not even considered in the era of space exploration, and pilots themselves are the more precious existence. Breaking the tension of the water surface into the sea is also a scoring situation, but the result will be completely different if it is a little poor. The real landing point of the golden machine is not the sea surface but the billowing spray and foam. And another reason is the material issue of the heterodox Gundam itself. The cushioning force of the foam metal armor is also quite excellent, and the bubble structure has a very good absorption effect on the impact force. The damage to the body itself is great, but the impact on Xiao Yun is not so great. In addition, the thick thermal insulation suit he was wearing further slowed down the impact, and it is unknown whether Luo had already thought of the possibility of unexpected situations, so the thermal insulation suit prepared for him also had an unexpectedly good impact resistance effect. After being lifted onto the cargo ship, the damaged golden machine was directly loaded into the cargo hold, and the cargo ship quickly changed direction and began to sail away from its original position. Xiao Yun kept watching the situation outside through the already fragmented scene. When the cargo hold closed and went through a pitch-black and bright process, he noticed a woman wearing an orange jacket and light jeans appearing in front of the suspended aircraft. At the same time as seeing this woman, Xiao Yun also recognized that the other person was Erica Simmons, who had just been talking to him. He slowly took off his thick and inconvenient thermal insulation suit before allowing VT to open the cockpit door. VT, open the door. It has already been opened. Xiao Yun. VT, perhaps the structural deformation caused by the impact prevented the hatch from opening properly. You can try kicking the hatch open with force. Xiao Yun stood up speechlessly, tightly grasping the handle by the door with both hands and kicking it hard towards the cabin door before successfully opening it. After the cabin door opened, an elevator also approached the open cockpit, and Erica Simmons watched silently as Xiao Yun climbed down the ladder. Until Xiao Yun walked up to her, Erica finally let out a long sigh and helplessly said, covering her forehead, "You've been acting too recklessly. Is this the usual style of mercenaries like you?" Xiao Yun shrugged his shoulders and said, "I just came down as soon as possible according to your request. This should be completely fulfilling your request." "That's right." Erica gave a bitter smile and looked up at the shapely golden machine again. "But this machine is almost useless. Not to mention the outer armor, the internal skeleton is probably already shapeless." Upon hearing Erica's words, Xiao Yun also turned his head to look at the current golden machine. At this moment, Xiao Yun himself was stunned. The current appearance of this golden machine looks a bit too bleak, just like the super battle-damaged version. Apart from being able to roughly see its original appearance, it has turned into a black and dark appearance everywhere. There are cracks and defects all over the body, and various parts of the armor also show signs of collapse, which can be directly displayed as a scene decoration in the museum. Xiao Yun pondered and said, I think you want this machine as a reference, and now it can still serve as a reference. As long as you can obtain the complete information of the machine, it is enough. However, no matter what, the machine itself has become like this now because of your requirements, so you still need to bear the cost of machine maintenance. Erica smiled bitterly and said, it's really direct. We will take on the responsibility of repairing the machine body. After all, according to the agreement, this machine body itself is also your reward. We will go to Shuyuan www.jiaoshuyuan.com and completely repair this machine before handing it over to you. There is no intention of defaulting on the debt, so can you move your hand a little bit? This will make me feel very offended. Xiao Yun lowered his head and glanced at his right hand, which was resting on the pistol at his waist. He suddenly realized and smiled shyly at Erica, I'm sorry, but it just makes me feel a little safer. Erica shook her head and said, since we are the employer and have provided employment conditions, you have not considered tearing up our agreement since you took the risk of landing from the universe. Moreover, I just made such an unreasonable and dangerous request, which is indeed our problem. We will also be responsible for the compensation and maintenance of this machine, and Ob will not damage his reputation because of this kind of thing. Xiao Yun smiled slightly and said, that would be great. Erica said, besides, we have a small request here. Please speak. Erica said, regarding this mission and the matter of this aircraft, I hope to try not to have any relationship with Ob in the future. Xiao Yun nodded and said, I understand, this is part of the agreement. You may need to stay at Ob for a while now, Erica nodded and said, after all, this machine is damaged to this extent, and it may take quite some time to fully repair it. If you don't have a place to rest, we can also provide it for you. Xiao Yun originally planned to stay in Obu for a while and smiled, saying, no problem, I happen to want to take a good vacation in Obu. Erica smiled slightly and said, thank you very much for your assistance. I hope there will be another opportunity for cooperation next time. It will take a few more hours to return to Obu. We have prepared a resting place for you on the ship. Please come with me. Chapter 8. Arriving at Obu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The courtesy of meeting Xiao Yun and Erica Simmons was just a probing and guarded gesture. Although it seemed natural, it was actually not very harmonious. They both tried their best to maintain the surface harmony of their initial cooperation and expressed their respective demands. Erica hopes that Xiao Yun can temporarily stay in Obu for a period of time, not just because the body needs time to repair, but also for other purposes. Xiao Yun's request was very simple, which was his commission and body repair. He also agreed to Erica's desire to stay at Ob, and more naturally, staying also met his initial idea of finding a place to settle. And as for how Xiao Yun managed to run to Heliopolis and obtain the golden machine there, Erica didn't mention it at all. She tacitly ignored the most important issue and didn't even mention that the golden machine was originally Orb. Xiao Yun has also been on guard against the other party, after all, he knows what he has done in his heart. Although he agreed to this employment, he is also prepared to turn his back at any time, and can take Erica as a hostage in the first time. VT is also in the cockpit of the golden machine and can use the multi-barrel guns on his head to reinforce at any time. Fortunately, there was no situation that Xiao Yun least wanted to see, otherwise he would have had to make a scene before settling in another place. After confirming that there was nothing wrong, Xiao Yun didn't mind the trouble and climbed onto the cockpit of the golden plane, took the VT, and then followed Erica to a different place to rest. He stayed in his room until the cargo ship docked. But after sending Xiao Yun to her resting place, Erica immediately returned to the cargo hold where the golden machine was located. At this time, the golden machine had already gathered many engineers from the Aurora Society, rushing to inspect the machine and back up its data. Returning to the cargo hold, Erica walked up to several computers and looked at the rapidly flashing information on the screen without looking back, asking, "How is the situation?" "Everything is going smoothly. We are downloading the body data, but the condition of the body needs to be thoroughly checked." Erica nodded lightly and said, "Can you find the operation records of the body?" The staff member on the side replied, "I couldn't find it. It should be because the operator performed a restore operation in the end, and the system and all operation records were initialized. No other useful information was found." Erica smiled and said, "You're really cautious. Accelerate the process and back up all the data first. Once it's docked, send this machine directly to the factory." "Good, Director." Erica looked up at the almost scrapped golden machine, her mind filled with scenes of Xiao Yun driving the golden machine from the sky just now. She hugged her arms and thought to herself, "It's not ordinary people who can make this machine perform that kind of action, and it's definitely not something that a simple operating system could do." But fortunately, the machine and data are all in hand, and finally, Ob has his own sword. In a blink of an eye, several hours passed and the cargo ship slowly entered a fully enclosed dock before stopping. Erica also appeared again in Xiao Yun's eyes. "Sorry for keeping you waiting." "It's okay, I just took a break for a while." Xiao Yun stood up and shook his head at Erica, asking, "It's already here?" Erica nodded and handed a card to Xiao Yun, saying, "This is your reward. The price has already been added and I hope it can satisfy you. You can use it anywhere, including Obu. We have also paid for the part that belongs to the recycling house." Xiao Yun took the card and casually put it into his pocket. He smiled at Erica and said, "Thank you. If there is anything else you need my help with, please feel free to contact me. As long as the price is reasonable, everything is not a problem. Perhaps there may really be something I need your help with recently." Erica smiled at Xiao Yun and said, "I'll take you out. I've already prepared a temporary place for you to stay." Xiao Yun nodded and followed Erica all the way away. As he left the cargo ship through the boardwalk, he happened to see the golden machine lifted by the crane and took a few glances around. Seeing Xiao Yun's curiosity about her surroundings, Erica spoke up and said, "This is the headquarters of the Dawn Society, which is also located on the main island of Obu. The accommodation we have arranged for you is near the Dawn Society. As for this machine, we will inform you as soon as it is completely repaired." Xiao Yun turned to look at Erica beside him and said, "Can you make a request?" "Request?" Erica glanced at Xiao Yun and nodded, "Is there anything unsatisfactory about that aircraft? I also want to know the pilot's actual feelings about that aircraft." Xiao Yundao said, "This machine is actually quite good and has high scalability, but in reality, everyone's thoughts on this matter are different. I hope you can help me enhance the propulsion efficiency when repairing it, preferably by adding some kind of air cushion device to the legs." Erica pondered, "Air cushion device? Sliding? Yes." Erica said, "No problem, Dawn Society can try, but I have a proposal that I don't know if you're willing to accept." Xiao Yun looked at the other party and heard Erica continue, "I would like to invite you as the testing pilot of Dawn Society in the name of Dawn Society. Your job is to help us test this aircraft and assist us in developing new mass-produced models. During the testing process, we will also refer to your opinions as much as possible. As compensation, we will also modify this aircraft according to your ideas to a more satisfactory appearance, and of course, there will be an additional commission that satisfies you." Xiao Yun said nonchalantly, "No problem, as long as the price is reasonable, it's not a problem to go to Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. At present, Xiao Yun has not yet had a clear plan for the arrangements he will make. Accepting the employment of the Dawn Society again can be considered as finding something to do, and staying here is also a good choice. The key is to earn a large amount of commission and have the Dawn Society help him modify the golden machine to a more satisfactory appearance." Upon hearing Xiao Yun's agreement, Erica also smiled and said, "Then I'll trouble you next. However, you can rest for a few more days. If you have nothing to do, you can also go to the city for a walk. When it officially starts here, I will have someone come to pick you up. Good. Sent out of the shipyard by Erica, a car had already been waiting outside. Erica only got Xiao Yun on the car here, and under the driver's guidance, Xiao Yun was taken to a house not too far from Dawn Society, located next to the coastline. The scenery is not wrong. It can be accompanied by the vast sea, and the buildings of Dawn Society can be seen at a glance, while also providing a panoramic view of the city in another direction. This two-story building is only occupied by Xiao Yun, with complete facilities and nothing lacking. There is also a car parked in the yard. The person who brought Xiao Yun over also introduced him to the situation of the room before leaving, and then only Xiao Yun remained in the entire room. There was nothing in the fridge and nothing in the wardrobe. After thinking for a moment, Xiao Yun drove to the city with his VT to purchase some daily necessities for himself. He also went to the hospital for a check. Up on the way, and by the time the big and small packages returned, the moon was already hanging in the sky. As soon as he stopped at his residence, Xiao Yun frowned slightly and placed his hand on his waist. He slowly opened the car door and walked out of the car, looking at the person standing in front of the door who came uninvited. A woman. Chapter 9. Mira's Exploration. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The woman standing at the door, Xiao Yun, is very familiar with at least a very few deep impressions. Her gorgeous purple cloak, purple scarf, and white shirt are exactly the same as the previous one, except for her slightly swollen chest. But the line of this face is softer and the expression is more indifferent. It is completely different from the previous face full of rebellion. Even if the two faces are identical, they are also completely different. Xiao Yun can clearly distinguish this. The owner of this face was looking at Xiao Yun with a cold and scrutinizing gaze, which conveyed some special meaning. Before the other party could speak, Xiao Yun spoke up first. Who are you? Why are you in my yard? The person's cold gaze fixed on Xiao Yun and said lightly, have you never seen me? Xiao Yun replied without answering, answering my question would be more beneficial for your situation. How could he not know who the person in front of him was? He must have never seen it before, but he had seen another guy with the same appearance as her, a person who had already died in his hands, Gina. What appears here now is Gina's twin sister, Lund Mina Sahak. Xiao Yun couldn't help but understand why the other party was here. He knew best what he had done, and combined with what Mina had just said, he couldn't help but know that the other party had some kind of suspicion towards him. However, Xiao Yun pretended to know nothing and stared at the other party with great caution. Humph. Mina snorted coldly and said, you brought back the golden machine. Xiao Yun's gaze remained unchanged. I don't know what you're talking about, who you really are, and what the purpose of appearing here is. Mina gave Xiao Yun a cold look and said, you better not know anything. After speaking, Mina took a step over Xiao Yun and left. After Mina left the yard, she got into a car that was coming over and quickly disappeared from Xiao Yun's sight. Until Mina left, Xiao Yun still maintained his previous behavior, taking a moment to slowly put down his hand that was resting on his waist, and return to the room with the big and small bags of things in the car. Upon entering the house, I contacted Erica through the contact information left by the previous driver, and then told him about the stranger's appearance at home. After hearing Xiao Yun's description of Mina, Erica fell silent for a moment and said, this person is one of the leaders of the Dawn Society and also the heir of one of the 5 noble families of Obu. The person in charge of the development of the Golden Machine series should not have any ill intentions towards you. Perhaps she just wants to see who the person who can bring back the Golden Machine is. After all, you should also know some of the origin of the Golden Machine, but she didn't directly enter the house and waited for you outside the door, indicating that she had no malicious intent. Perhaps there was some misunderstanding inside. Are you people? Misunderstanding. Xiao Yun reminded knowingly, just assume there was some misunderstanding. But next time, I hope you don't suddenly appear at the entrance for no apparent reason. If it weren't for her just standing outside the door and not entering the house, it might have been another result now. Since the incident has already occurred, Xiao Yun cannot assume that nothing has happened and must make a response that fits the situation. Contacting Erica to explain the previous incident is also in line with the current situation. Mina's appearance here must be suspicious of him. Apart from himself and the professor, no one knows about Gina being killed by Xiao Yun. But now that Gina has lost contact and is in a missing state, Mina came here because of the golden machine to test whether Xiao Yun has ever seen Gina. After all, Gina has always been in charge of the 5 heretic Gundams, and now that Gina has appeared but disappeared, there must be something strange about Mina. It is only known that Xiao Yun was found by Erica through the relationship with the Waste Trading Association, who specifically sent the golden machine to the Obu region. With the professor's cover-up and Erica's response, even without evidence, Mina cannot directly link the disappearance of Xiao Yun and Gina. This time of probing, Mina didn't find anything suspicious from Xiao Yun's performance, so Mina left directly. After hanging up on the phone with Erica, Xiao Yun did not show any discomfort, even if no one was present, he pretended to know nothing. In the following time, Xiao Yun did not see Mina again. It seemed that through this probing, it was confirmed that Xiao Yun and Gina's disappearance had nothing to do with them. Xiao Yun had only been staying in Obu for half a month, and every day he had nothing to do. Every day, either indulging in the colorful nightlife in the city, or working hard to exercise in the yard without doing anything unnecessary. It wasn't until Erica notified Xiao Yun that he withdrew from this kind of life and changed into the Dawn Society work clothes that someone had sent in advance, and once again came to the Dawn Society. At the same time as seeing Erica, Xiao Yun also saw a newly repaired heterodox golden machine, as well as another MS and M1 heterodox machine that had not been painted yet. The two machines look similar but completely different when placed together. The M1 heterodox has the characteristics of a mass-produced machine in all aspects, making it simpler and lighter, but overall it still maintains the consistent style of the heterodox series. The golden machine also has some differences, with slight modifications to the legs that make it look thicker and more sturdy. Compared to the previously exposed parts, there are also a few more armor blocks in these areas. The discarded shield has a new one, and there is also an X-shaped backpack on the back that is almost the same as the M1 Heretic, except that the color has been changed to white and gold. Just as Xiao Yun was watching these two machines compare, Erica came to Xiao Yun's side and also looked at the two machines, saying, after half a month of effort, the golden machine has been completely repaired, and the skeleton has also been strengthened, some outer armor has been added, and as you said, an air cushion sliding device has been added, but it may need to be combined with backpack propulsion to achieve the sliding effect. Xiao Yun looked at Erica and said, maybe. It's only possible. Erica smiled slightly and said, after all, no one has tried this kind of thing before and not everyone can use it. It's just adjusting the parameters based on the data and installing it. According to the theory, there is no problem. No one knows what specific effects can be achieved, and whether it can satisfy you will only be known after you try it yourself. Xiao Yun nodded and said, so what's my next job? This new MS requires you to help us complete the final testing, and we also need to collect your driving data to write a system OS suitable for natural people to use. Erica hugged her chest with one hand and tilted her head with the other hand on her chin, saying in distress, although MS has already been manufactured, this thing is not something that ordinary people can use. If we cannot write a suitable OS, we will be very puzzled. What should we do next? But you should not be the adjuster, right? Xiao Yun glanced at Erica and nodded, indeed not. Erica smiled knowingly and said, if you are willing to assist us in developing the OS, the compensation will definitely satisfy you. When it comes to remuneration, as long as the price is suitable, Xiao Yun has no reason to oppose it. Although he doesn't know why he needs so much money, the commission Erica gave him before was enough for him to be carefree for a long time, and he is no longer so eager for money. But my current identity is a waste merchant and a mercenary, so I have to act according to this identity. Besides, he still needs to wait for Luo to deliver things to him at Obu. No matter what, I can't leave Obu now, and this money-making thing has really become a convenient thing. If I don't want to make money, it will appear strange instead. In addition, Xiaoyun also had the idea of using the Dawn Society to further enhance the golden machine in his heart. Perhaps one day he would discover a way to return to the previous world. Even if he was not sure if he could ultimately bring this golden machine back to his original world, he had already been prepared and not panicked, but what if? Chapter 10. Jiali. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the huge underground space, Xiaoyun is driving an M1 Heretic to conduct various combat tests. The M1 Heretic, which was originally impossible for ordinary people to operate, is easily controlled by Xiaoyun, making various actions such as jumping, pushing, flipping, switching weapons, and launching attacks from time to time. And there are also many people busy in the control room of this underground space, recording all the testing data and analyzing it urgently. Erica stood behind the staff and looked at the M1 Heretic in the training space, while standing beside her was Mina, who had appeared in front of Xiaoyun's door before. Mina looked expressionlessly at the various actions made by the M1 Heretic under Xiaoyun's driving, and said calmly, compared to the data provided by the Golden Heretic, the performance of the M1 Heretic has been greatly reduced in all aspects, but even so, the OS still cannot match the performance of the body itself. Erica smiled slightly and said, after all, this is only an OS developed for natural humans and has not been further optimized. But at least with the efforts of our testing pilot, the current development optimization speed is still quite fast. I believe it won't be long before we can come up with a better version. Mina nodded without hesitation and said, I heard that this mercenary has also contributed a lot to the development of OS. To be honest, he adjusted 60% of the current OS. Erica looked at Mina and smiled, and he's not a mercenary. He's a real registered waste recycler, and his identity is not a problem. Mina snorted lightly and said somewhat dissatisfied, it's not so much his role as his artificial intelligence, and what can be tested in the air like this. Erica shrugged her shoulders and said, I don't really mind conducting a practical test, but you've seen this person's driving record very recklessly. If we conduct a practical test, it's inevitable that the test subject will be injured. We really can't find any opponents to compete with here. But if you're interested, maybe you can become a good opponent and also provide us with more useful data. Mina snorted again, don't think I don't know what you're thinking. Erica smiled slightly and said, after all, it's just testing. Now that the level of testing is sufficient, there's no need to conduct practical testing. If it hurts you or our rare testing pilot, it's not a good thing. This little man can play a lot of roles. If he can't work due to injury, it will have a significant impact on our development progress. Mina finally looked straight at Erica and gave a cold smile, oh, little man. Don't look at me like that, Erica smiled calmly. I'm also thinking about the development progress. Don't get it wrong. We haven't happened anything, but I don't mind what happens when the opportunity is right, after all, this kind of thing is quite normal, right? Mina turned around and left directly, I hope you know what you're doing. Erica smiled and didn't respond, her gaze focused on the various jumping data on the front console screen. It wasn't until the test was over that Erica stepped forward and picked up the microphone, saying, today's test is done. Did you find any problems? Upon hearing this sound, Xiaoyun stopped the machine and opened the communication to reply, there is still a delay in operation. The response speed of some operations is slow, and the reaction of the thrusters is also delayed. There is a slight deviation in the accuracy of the right arm. It is unclear whether it is due to the OS or the machine itself, and the overall operation is not smooth enough. Further adjustments are needed. In short, I personally feel that the OS still cannot match the body's performance and cannot fully unleash its potential. Erica asked someone to record what Xiaoyun said and said to the microphone, for now, that's all we can do. If we find any problems, we will adjust the OS optimization as soon as possible and continue. However, we still need you to continue adjusting the parameters to ensure that even natural people can use them smoothly. Nowadays, although it is possible for natural humans to walk, run, and jump while driving, it is too difficult to engage in combat at this level. Xiao Yun looked at the text displayed on the VT screen in the body and said, adjusting based on the current situation is almost reaching its limit. We still need to continue modifying the underlying data and framework to achieve better results. Erica pondered for a moment and said, however, the optimization of the current OS also needs to continue. Anyway, I still need to trouble you next. Xiao Yun shook his head and said, I can only say that I am trying my best, but I may not be able to achieve a level that satisfies you. Erica chuckled lightly and said, if you're not satisfied, you can talk about it later. It's been tough today, and the kitchen has prepared a good lunch. If you move faster, you'll still be able to make it to dinner time. Xiao Yun shook his head and smiled, understood. The test is over. I'll have VT send you the detailed records of the test. Now, send the machine back to the maintenance room. Good. The driver left the testing site and parked back in the prepared area. Xiao Yun left the cockpit with his VT and headed to the cafeteria. As soon as he had lunch and found a place to sit down, he saw Erica sitting in front of him with a plate. Where do you think the current OS needs to be adjusted? Modifying the framework and underlying data is not a simple task. Xiao Yun shook his head and said, it's hard to say, but unless this OS undergoes significant modifications and optimizations, simply modifying parameters won't have much effect. This is a limitation of the framework itself, but in any case, it's much better than the previous situation of falling down after taking 2 steps. Using the adjuster's OS framework to modify an OS that can be used by natural people is not very suitable. Erica glanced at Xiao Yun with a smile on her face and said, but aren't you also a natural person? Xiao Yun smiled and said, this is even more different. Not to mention how much I can do on my own, VT has actually shared a lot of operational pressure with me, unless you can equip each pilot with a similar artificial intelligence. Although I wanted to, I couldn't do it. Erica shook her head and said, although I don't know what's going on with your AI, Dawn Society really can't create the same thing. So, the OS used by your golden machine is actually just the one used by the original adjuster, just adjusted to the most suitable parameters for you to use. Xiao Yun sneered and said, the golden machine is right under your nose. I have never stopped you from inspecting the golden machine. Shouldn't you be the most aware of this? Sorry, Erica smiled apologetically at Xiao Yun. Xiao Yun shook his head and quietly started eating. After taking a few bites, he looked up at Erica, who was buried quietly eating, and said, but if you are willing to open up the core data of the underlying framework to me, maybe you can complete the optimization and development of the OS as soon as possible. Erica looked at Xiao Yun and nodded slightly, I will apply with them. Although I don't know if they will agree, I still want to thank you first. Xiao Yun shook his head and said, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm just trying to make money. Erica. A voice shouting Erica's name suddenly appeared in their ears. Xiao Yun looked up in the direction of the sound and saw a blonde girl wearing a long dress walking towards him with an angry expression. Miss Jiali. Erica looked at the girl who suddenly ran out in confusion and said, why are you here? Tell me, what are you doing now? Jiali clenched her fists and leaned forward, staring at Erica angrily. Are you really developing MS? Even though Heliopolis has turned out that way because of MS, do you still want the same thing to happen in Ob's homeland? Erica was taken aback and glanced at the young lady in front of her, feeling a bit headache as she covered her forehead. Miss Kakari, it's precisely because we don't have the power to match in a neutral position that we need to develop our own MS. What happened to Heliopolis was just an accident, and no one expected such a thing to happen. As for what Dawn Society is currently doing, it's confidential and I can't tell you. You really want to know why not? Ask Lord Asha. Find Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Jiali took a deep breath and suppressed her anger, saying, "It's precisely because of having weapons that we shouldn't have that we bring about conflict and war." Watching Jiali listen to their conversation, Xiao Yunbiao sneered at the beginning and said to himself, "Jiali really is a crazy and brainless girl." Upon hearing Xiao Yun's voice and noticing his movements, Jiali's gaze immediately shifted to Xiao Yun's body. Her eyebrows furrowed slightly and she said, "Who are you? Why haven't I seen you? You were laughing just now, do you think what I said is wrong?" "Me?" Xiao Yun pointed to himself and said seriously, "I didn't laugh. You might have heard me wrong, I just sneezed." Xiao Yun had no interest in what Jiali was thinking, let alone in wanting to correct this innocent girl. This princess believed from the bottom of her heart that force was the trigger for disputes and spearheads. As long as Obu remained neutral in his previous beliefs and did not develop anything that could cause misunderstandings, war would not spread. As a princess, the other princess, Lakis, was much more powerful than Kakari. While shouting for peace and not war, she stole Zaf's newly developed strongest mecha and compatible warships. She has been infiltrating and influencing the entire ZFT, quietly developing even more powerful mecha, never taking power and force seriously like the one in front of her. Jiali looked at Xiao Yun angrily and said, "You're just laughing. Miss Kakari." Erika stood up and frowned sternly, "This is the Dawn Society, not your place of mischief. If you really want to know something, go back and ask Prime Minister Asha. Do you want everyone to see how ignorant the Prime Minister's daughter is and become a joke?"